Welcome everyone to Philosophy Online Lecture. My name is Eminem, and today we are working on ethics. Okay, in the previous videos we talked about what is it called? Situation ethics as one of the ethical theories in normative ethics, and today we'll be taking a look to another very popular figure, Immanuel Kant, an 18th century German philosopher. Okay, he also has his own ethical theory, popularly known as the Kantian ethics, which he promulgated the categorical imperative. Okay, so now the theory of Immanuel Kant on ethics focus on the intention, the motive, the will behind every action. Okay, so Immanuel Kant's ethics is more of a deontological theory, and when we talk about deontological theory, they do not consider the end of an action to be the judgment, the judge of if the action is right or not. They consider the process of the action, the means of the action. Okay, they emphasize on duty. Okay, as opposed to the end result. Okay, so where an action should be good in itself, even if it's going to result to negative occurrence or positive occurrence, the action should be good in itself. Okay, so that is what deontology is all about. Okay, so his theory, Immanuel Kant theory, focus on the intention, the motive, or the will behind an action. Okay, so to him, there is nothing in this world that could be considered good in itself without limitations. Okay, he said that intelligence, wealth, knowledge, love, power, and so on can be used for evil purpose. They can be misused if they lack the element of goodwill in themselves, and that is true. Power can be used negatively, wealth can be used negatively. Okay, the major wealth also can be used positively. Wealth can be used, power can be used positively. Do you get it? Now the major point is that what makes it good is the element of goodwill in it. Okay, so now goodwill is an essential part, okay, of every action. Okay, so sometimes we praise actions and we forget to consider that does this action as element of goodwill. You see people going online giving alms to beggars. Okay, those beggars should be happy, that is the end result, right? Okay, but these people are carrying cameras to chase clouds. Okay, so you see that the goodwill is not actually in them, it is actually for this thing, the fame or whatever other thing that they are looking for. Okay, so now this is what Immanuel Kant is saying. As simple as that. I hope you can relate. Now, he said that actions should not be evaluated based on the consequences alone, but what is the motive of the performer of that action. Okay, so the goodness of a good motive can be what makes an action right. Okay, so the moral value of every action is determined by the motive, the intention, and not by the consequences. Do you get it? Now, for example, like I said earlier, you want to help someone, you know, are you doing that because you want to get a reward from that person? Are you doing that because you want to be popular, to let people know that you are the one that helped this person? Okay. Are you doing that thing because of pity, emotion? Oh, let me just help this person. That is motives. Okay. So those actions that we do because of all these motives are not right in themselves. Okay, but if we are doing it with the sense of this is my duty, okay, this is my duty as human to a fellow man, okay, then that action is right. Okay, so the moral value is right based on what our motives are. Okay, so this implies that we have to separate the consequences of an action from the motive of an action. Okay, so the question now is, how do we determine what is goodwill in an action? Because are we to ask the performer of that action that why did you do this? Okay, and sometimes if we ask, the performer of that action might lie that this is why I do it. Oh, I just want to be helping people, whereas it's for another motive. Okay, or are there any external ways that we can know the motive behind an action? Okay, and this is where Immanuel Kant came up with the point that goodwill must be in conformity with moral law, and it must be something that can be universalized. Okay, and this is what is going to make it essential. Okay, so now essential by the word imperative. Okay, now in now distinguish between two kinds of imperatives. Okay, that is where we are leading to is categorical imperative. So just take them. Okay, now it distinguish between two kinds of imperative: the hypothetical imperative and the categorical imperative. Now, the hypothetical imperative is doing an action because of what you are expected to get from it. Okay, so you are doing this, it is doing an action towards an end goal. Okay, so if they say that, greet that woman at least so that she go free you. Okay, so you are not greeting her because you are feeling that it is a sense of duty. You are greeting her because you want her to at least let you go. Okay, like the Yoruba did you say, "Jẹ́ ká pe màálù ń bọ́dà so that I'm going Lord." Do you get it? Now, uh, so the categorical imperative states that if you want B, then do A. That is the simple thing. Now, the real moral law is the one in categorical imperative. Okay, so we are doing things in what we know that it is what we ought to do, what we should do, what we must do without any condition attached to it. Okay, or subjective wants. Okay, so we are not doing things to satisfy our desire. We are doing this thing because this is what is universally right. Okay, now in his categorical imperative, he made three statements. Okay, three statements. Okay, now the first statement is act only on that maxim through which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Okay, act only on that maxim through which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Now, a maxim is like a principle that guides our action. Okay, so when it says act only on that maxim, that you at the same time with it should become a universal law, it's saying that you should act based on that principle. That at the same time you can say that, oh, this thing should be practiced by somebody. Everyone. Okay, it's not even by somebody else, by everyone. And this is like just as simple saying, do unto others what you want others to do to you. So he's saying that whenever we want to put any action to practice, okay, we should consider that this thing I want to do, if every other person in this world do it, is he going to be right? Okay, so before you go into the kitchen and steal that meat inside the pot, consider that if every member of the family go inside that same pot and sneak to eat it, is it going to be something that is acceptable universally? Okay, so that is where we get to know that this action is right, this action is wrong. If it is something that you would not will to be done universally, then you see that it has failed the test of categorical imperative. Okay, if it is something that you will should be done universally. Okay, now when you want to go into the toilet kitchen to steal the meat, you now stop. Oh, this thing, I will not want everybody to do it. Then you go back. You are also willing that everybody who has that thought of stealing should not do it, but to go back universal. Okay, that is limiting it to the family perspective so that you can understand better. Okay, so every of our actions must pass this categorical imperative test. We must act according to that maxim in which we will that at the same time we will read that this thing should become a universal law. Okay, so that is the first statement. Okay, so now we move on to the second statement of uh Immanuel Kant categorical imperative. And the second statement is act that you use humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of another, always at the same time as an end, never merely as a means. Now, let me break this down. It's simply saying that you should consider humans as means, as an end in themselves and not as means to an end. Okay, and this is how you should treat humans. Okay, now what this is trying to say is that some of us, have experienced a worker or an apprentice under someone tutelage, and the person is asking this apprentice to go and watch this thing, go and buy this thing, go and do this thing, using the such person to get his own ends. Okay, and at the end of the day, he is not actually impacting in the life of this apprentice. Okay, he is actually using this apprentice as a means for his own end and not seeing the apprentice as an end in himself. Okay, this is what Kant is talking against. Okay, so everyone should be seen as, every humans have our intrinsic value, that is that value that we have in ourselves, and so we must consider this value of every woman, that this person also is a human being. Okay, so we should treat others, right, as ends in themselves and not as a means, merely as a means to an end. So humans are not tools. Okay, a human is not a car, a human is not a book, a human is not a kettle, okay, that we use to achieve our hot water or what we need our end. Okay, humans are have value in themselves, they are end in themselves. Okay, so it is immoral to treat someone as a thing. Okay, that is what Immanuel Kant is saying. Okay, so when you see someone, okay, and use that person for your own selfish interest, you're treating that person as a tool. Okay, so this is what is preaching again. So those two statements now combine to form the third statement, the third formulation, which held that we should act in accordance with the maxim of a member giving universal laws for merely possible kingdom of ends. Now let me break this down. A postulated like an utopian society, an ideal society. If you are not new to philosophy, you know that Plato also had a republic, which is an ideal society. An ideal society is that society that is non-existent, is an imaginary society of perfection. Okay, so he held that we should act in this society to Immanuel Kant was the kingdom of ends. Okay, so the kingdom of ends is where we act in the way we expect others to act. Okay, our actions, combine to treating others as right and expecting others to treat us too as right. Okay, so we might not be able to achieve this perfect state, but at least we can strive to achieve it in a certain degree. Okay, so uh, the third formulation is simply saying that we should act in whatever way a member of this perfectly just society to react. So if the philosophy, our department now in our level, we're expecting that we should say the truth every time. You know that this is what is applicable in this society. You are expected to do it, and every other member are expected to do the same. Okay, so that is Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. Okay, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Now, the criticisms against this, you could use relativism as a criticism against it. Okay, because there are some actions that are relative to certain people or certain culture and cannot be applied everywhere. Okay, so that is one of the way you can criticize Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative. Thank you so much for listening. Please do subscribe and turn on notification.